Hello and welcome to the Lazy and Entitled podcast, the podcast where we talk about life from the writer's perspective. I'm one of your hosts, Chris Corlew.
And I'm the other one of your hosts, Brendan Johnson.
Yeah, this is our a point 0.5 episode. We're going to be doing regular episodes and point 0.5 episodes that are a little bit shorter.
Just to make things complex.
Yeah, yeah, because who wants to do things the easy way?
We hate being straightforward. That's why we have like 3 band names and stuff.
It's true. It's true. We do have 3 band names and two official members of the band, but 3 band names. All right, this week on Life from the Writer's Perspective, we're interviewing a poet who does a lot of public-facing work. They run a reading series, they run a writing workshop, they work with a children's theater. They don't run a children's theater, they work with a children's theater. They work with a trans advocacy nonprofit. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about the public role of art and tell a quick story about a reading series that I ran way back in college. If anyone listens to the Line Break, the poetry podcast I host with Bob Sikora, you've heard about this. But quickly rehashing it here sets the scene for the rest of the episode, I think, especially as we get into highfalutin people like Gwendolyn Brooks and the former Poet Laureate of Portland, Maine. But back in college, my friends Charles Gable, Quinn Slavic, and I ran a monthly reading series out of Quinn's 3-bedroom apartment in Rogers Park. These were undergrad parties, so there was booze and weed and cigarettes and loud music. And one time Quinn asked me to cook a brisket, but I'd never done that before. So I chucked it in the oven until it looked like food. I have no idea how it tastes. I remember liking it, but who knows? These were raucous events. I'd estimate we averaged up between 25 and 50 people each month, but who knows? Picture a 3-bedroom apartment. Imagine it decently full, but still pretty comfortable. What's nuts is when it was time to read poems, everyone shut up and listened to poetry. And yeah, these were creative writing majors, but I wouldn't say that that was the majority of people that were there. Um, Yet the power of poetry, or at least Charles and Quinn's infectious energy as hosts, which I tried to match, was enough to get everyone listening for a minute. Every time I've been in a setting like this, a poetry reading where normally a poetry reading might not be happening, this has been the case. And I recognize poetry as an art form that's easy to laugh at. It's not hard to find comedy sketches skewering the goofier parts of poetry readings, slam or otherwise, drumming on bongos and stuff, snapping. It's also not hard to find articles declaring poetry dead or people lamenting the fact that it doesn't rhyme anymore. But the next time you hear someone reading a poem out loud, listen. Or better yet, go to poetry.com right now and find a poem. Make it one by either Frank O'Hara or Gwendolyn Brooks. Those read well out loud. And then read the poem to yourself. There is a power in poetry, and it is an art form that demands to be performed. Chance the Rapper, and more importantly, No Name and Saba, got their starts doing slam poetry events too. So today, we're talking about poetry and its role as a public art form. Okay, on Storytime this week, we're reading from this book, Black Women Writers at Work, edited by Claudia Tate. It first came out in 1983. It is a series of interviews Claudia Tate did with a bunch of writers who happen to be black women and working. This is another book that I carry with me kind of intellectually the same way I carry Studs Terkel's Working, which we read from last episode. This is the Gwendolyn Brooks interview. Gwendolyn Brooks, great Chicago poet, really become one of my favorites in recent years as I've been reading more of her work. Annie Allen is really good. She's talking here at the beginning about groups of writers and people who have influenced her, including Dr. Haki Madhubuti, who is the University Distinguished Professor Emeritus at Chicago State University and is the founder, publisher, chair emeritus of the board of directors of Third World Press, which is a press that came up in the mid-20th century that focused primarily on black writers and published, I believe, published a lot of Gwendolyn Brooks' work. Here's Gwendolyn Brooks. In the meantime, a second group of young people started to meet here in my home in a workshop environment, and they were the ones who changed my whole life. They would talk about all kinds of things happening right here in Chicago, things I knew little or nothing about. Haki introduced me to books like The Rich and the Super Rich by Ferdinand Lundberg, which taught me a lot about what's going on in this society, about suppression and oppression. Hockey, in fact, has had a great influence on my thinking. As a group, we workshop people did many exciting things. We would go out and recite our poems in Malcolm X Park. In the late 60s, black people put up a sign and renamed Washington Park to honor Malcolm. It was our park, not Washington Park. We would go to a tavern and just start reciting our poetry. Hockey usually let us in, and he would say, "Look, folks, we're going to lay some poetry on you." Then he would start reciting his poems, which were relevant. Relevant poetry was the only kind you could take into that kind of situation. Those people weren't there to listen to poetry spelled with a capital P. The kind of poem I could recite in that atmosphere would be my short poem, We Real Cool. Later on, once the atmosphere had been set by a couple of the others, who had brought tight, direct, bouncy poems, the audience would be, quote, softened and ready to listen to something of my own with more length, something like The Life of Lincoln West. As I said, I'm trying to create new forms, trying to do something different. I'm trying to write the kind of poem that could be presented in a tavern atmosphere, on a street corner. I always like to use the tavern as my recitation's background symbol. I also visit prisons. I go to any prison in my reciting area that invites me. The inmates are so happy to have you pay attention to them. It's really rewarding to work with them. Many inmates send me their work. And a while back, I ran a writing contest at Greenhaven Correctional Facility in Stormville, New York. It was effective. The inmates enjoyed it. They were the judges. Here we are again with What Do You Do All Day, the segment where we ask people how exactly they fill up the hours. This week, we are thrilled to be joined by Maya Williams. Maya Williams, A, M, they, them, and she, her, is a religious, black, multiracial, non-binary suicide survivor who is currently an Ashley Bryan Fellow and was selected as the 7th Poet Laureate of Portland, Maine for a July 2021 to July 2024 term. Maya's debut poetry collection, Judas and Suicide, is available through Game Over Books. Our second poetry collection, Refused a Second Date, is available now through Harbor Editions. Maya's third poetry collection, a chapbook, What's So Wrong with a Pity Party Anyway, is available now via Garden Party Collective, friends of the show, Garden Party Collective. Maya, welcome.
Thank you so much. Oh my God, you're fantastic. Just need to get that out right away. Chris Corlew is fantastic.
Oh, you're too much. You're too much. How you doing this Tuesday?
I'm doing pretty well, thanks.
Yeah. Good. I left about 4 paragraphs off your bio because you're an extremely busy and accomplished person. But we're going to get a little more granular today and just talk about the day-by-day stuff. Our first question is our most intricate one. It is, what did you want to be when you grew up? What did you either study in college, or what did you do when you became an adult? And what do you do now?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Growing up, writing has been the main consistent thing growing up.
You're one of the lucky ones.
Yeah. But then also at the same time, like in the 5th grade, I was like, I'm going to be a storm chaser. Or like, and stuff like that. And then in high school, I read Ralph Ellison's Invisible Man, and I was like, yeah, I want to write, but I want to work with people and write. How do I do that? And I was contemplating between psychology and sociology and social work. I ended up studying social work and English in my undergrad. And then I moved to Maine for grad school to study social work in their grad program, along with their certificate in applied arts and social justice. Since then, as like a baby adult, I had done an AmeriCorps service with this LGBT organization called Equality Maine, and did their youth programming for a year. And then I spent a summer with an acting company called Speak About It, where they act out a play and teach students about consent, and did that for a summer right after the Equality Maine AmeriCorps service. And then for 3 months, I worked as a case manager. I hated it.
Sure.
only lasted like 3 months at it, like 3 or 4 months at it.
It's a tough job.
It is a tough job. Like, shout out to the people who can stick with it and be capable of taking care of themselves. I am not it. I'm still not it. And I remember during that time, I was like, oh, well, maybe now's a good time to pursue art full time. And then the pandemic happened. It was like, no, now it's not the time to pursue art full time. And I
Yeah.
worked for 4 years at this lovely organization, the Maine Transgender Network, as their community care program coordinator. And that's just a way of describing like how I worked with trans survivors of violence and worked with incarcerated trans survivors and did some arts programming centering trans artists. And then I got laid off because that's what happens at nonprofits sometimes, because of budget cuts and things. So now, as someone, it's now, that was the majority of my 20s, and I turned 30 this year, and now I'm in a point where I'm like, oh, I can do full-time art now. And by full-time art, by my definition, it means doing teaching artist gigs with nonprofits and schools, visiting schools. I'm part of Maine Humanities Council's speaker series. Facilitate readings. Oh gosh, I do so much. I'm working with the Children's Museum and Theater later this month for a spring show that they have. And then I work with Mad Horse Theater Company for a spring show they have. And in the fall, I work with the Dramatic Repertory Company in Maine for a show I can't talk about yet.
Okay.
So it's been nice using this time to focus more on writing and acting and focusing on how to get paid for it. And also at the same time, I recognize it's all part-time stuff.
Right.
And I remember thinking like, how long can I make being a full-time artist sustainable? How long will it last? And we're just continuing to see how long it lasts. I have been applying to other jobs in the meantime. But as of right now, I'm really enjoying being a full-time artist right now.
Nice. When Brendan and I were first developing the show, and particularly this segment, I was curious how people like you, people who are poet laureates, and who when I check in on you and on Instagram or on whatever social media or whatever, you're always seeming to be doing something, and I am just like, yeah, what is the day to day like? How do you pay the bills? How do you cobble together the income and that sort of thing? And it's every bit as chaotic as it sounds, but it sounds like a the beautiful struggle, to quote whomever said that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I love the transparency of this question because I feel like when it there's often a miscommunication about how artists make their money, and and what you have said in the prior episode about how it's like, oh yeah, you can make art, but you gotta have that backup job because you can't make money off of art or whatever. So for me, the day-to-day varies.
Sure.
It involves sending a bunch of emails, whether it's people reaching out to me about an upcoming program at their school or nonprofit, or I reach out to other people saying hey, I would love to do a program for you. Do you have a stipend for that? And
asking people for money is a skill I don't think I've ever really gotten. But you send people emails and you say, hey, I can do this for you. Can you pay me?
Exactly.
That's how a lot of it happens.
Oh my gosh. The former Poet Laureate title helps, but also not all the time, because that in itself was a volunteer position. But at the same time, it helped with some grant applications, and it helped with yes, you are going to pay me for my time, because here's a title that you can understand.
Here's something you respect.
Yeah, exactly. And so yeah, answering a bunch of emails, editing articles I may be working on, or editing someone else's manuscript or that they're working on and they pay me to edit it.
Sure.
Or I have phone calls or meetings in person with folks about an upcoming program. I remember talking to my therapist about this recently. I get paid now to read a lot. I've been reading.
That's cool. I'm trying to make that happen for myself. That's great.
Like I've been reading this book for a high school book discussion, and reading a book for like a conversation partnership, and reading scripts because of the plays that I have coming up this year.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, editing, teaching artists outlines. I teach on Mondays with Royal River Community Players in Yarmouth, Maine. So tweaking spoken word curriculum for them, especially when it comes to like, at first I'm thinking like, oh, we'll do this for next week, and then I meet with the students. I teach an adult class and a youth class, so then I meet with them, and then I'm like, okay, we're gonna tweak that based upon these conversations we are having, so you all can have a better time. And applying for grants, receiving a lot of rejections. Sending pitches to articles, and again receiving a lot of rejections.
I know that one. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Setting up my calendar when it comes to like, okay, here are these in-person events, here are these online events, here are times to make time for submissions for potential publications or potential residencies. I'll be on a decision-making jury for a Maine-based artist residency come March, and I'll be paid for my time for that. And so that's also been nice because my time has opened up. More people have been asking me to be a part of decision-making process stuff and have been paying me for them. And also again, for the sake of transparency, I applied for unemployment benefits because again, like it's like ever since losing my full-time job, it just doesn't make the cut every time. And like, and being a freelance artist, like you do have to sit with the uncertainty more of like, when am I gonna get paid? And granted, you do have a contract that does outline when you get paid, and at the same time, like it's always the larger institutions that have difficulty paying people on time. Like I run an open mic series, and we pay our featured poets through donations, and I always make sure to pay them on time. And they're always surprised, and it sucks that we've been conditioned to be surprised when we get paid on time.
I know. Anytime I get a job that like a writing job that'll say we pay on time, I'm like, automatically that's valuable to me, even if I feel like I'm like being underpaid or something. I'll be like, that's fine because you pay on time. Like, I mean, it's not fine to be underpaid, obviously, but like, people don't pay writers or artists on time, and that's it's wild that is something that we value, but it is something we have to value. You're kind of getting into it a little bit, so let's just make it official. I'm so excited to hear you answer this question. What is your community made of? And it can be in-person or online community, or both.
Yeah, I love hybrid programs because it meets people where they're at, whether it's for accessibility reasons for why they need to be online, or again, we're still in a pandemic, so again, that's a good enough reason to be online. And at the same time, there are people who are like, no, I need that physical contact with in-person people. So I love hybrid programs. On Sunday mornings, I run a writing workshop in person at this lovely bookstore / bar / cafe called Novel in downtown Portland. And we also have a Zoom link for folks who want to join online. And then on Tuesday nights is the open mic Port Veritas. Bob Sakura has featured.
Hey.
We got to get you to feature at some point.
And I got to get up to Maine. It's been on my list for a long time. Places I want to go. Yeah.
And that's in a hybrid format where folks come in person at the Equality Community Center in downtown Portland, or they sign up online via Zoom. And I am so blessed to live in the city that I live in right now, and to be surrounded by the community I've built for the past 7 years, coming on 8 this year. And I understand that times right now are super duper difficult. And like, even, and again, including with like this current administration saying like, we're not going to fund any related projects that has to do with diversity and inclusion.
Right.
Like that messes with a nonprofit I work with who likes to commission me for stuff. So it's like, what's the future of
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
And at the same time, like, because I'm surrounded by so many loved ones and I stay so involved, because I do enjoy being busy, because I do enjoy spending time with people. Like, it's fascinating when folks give me the sad type of, how are you? And I'm like,
Oh, sure.
I'm fine, actually.
Yeah, you're kind
Yeah.
of proving the adage that you hear in like a lot of like leftist circles and stuff, that like doing local stuff and getting involved in your community and like keeping busy. I don't want to say helping people, but helping people. Yeah, like
Yeah.
doing things to enrich people's lives and teaching and stuff that staves off the doomerism a little bit. You're
Exactly.
every day going out there and doing tangible things to help real people, and you're kind of proof positive
Thank you.
that can help in times like these, for sure. Even if the money is being threatened by the federal government, and the very existence of trans people is being threatened by federal government. But
Yep.
um, yeah. So let's pick a random day. You said you teach on Mondays. What does a Monday look like for the? So what do you do all day? Question. You are kind of all over the place, and that's rad. But let's just pick a random Monday. It's the beginning of the week.
Cool.
What do you do all day?
Okay. On Mondays, typically speaking, I wake up, I eat breakfast, I give my fiance a hug. I check in on emails, and if I'm not checking on emails, I'm catching up on some reading. If I'm not catching up on reading, I'm working on my prose project that I've been working on for quite some time, or I'm working on submitting a poetry collection that keeps getting rejected. And then after that, I teach the adult spoken word class from 2 to 3:30, and then I teach the youth spoken word class from 4 to 4:50, and then I come home and I either take a nap, or I catch up with how my fiance is doing, or I eat something. And also, I also see my therapist every other Monday. So sometimes I'm getting ready for therapy. But then there are other times I just either watch stuff or read something.
Sure. Are you the cook in the household, or is that your fiance?
No. Well, we cook together.
Sure.
And at the like, there was a point in time where he was doing the majority of the cooking. Now we're at a point in time where we cook together, but at the same time, they're not fancy meals by any means. They're not anything.
Oh no,
by scratch or anything like that.
Yeah, I have a child. Do you think I'm making fancy meals all the time?
You'd be surprised.
So I think we stopped short. You after dinner you're just catching up with your fiance, unwinding in front of the TV, just calming down for the evening. It's funny, the representative day seems less chaotic than your general.
Exactly.
Here's what my life is.
Because there's sometimes I work with a theater company called Portland Stage, and they do children's programming called Play Me a Story, where they have educators act out the children's books, and then they work with the children about like, hey, how can you use your body, voices, and imaginations, like how you just saw with the children's story. And oh my goodness, thank goodness for their patience. They're like, you're available on this day, and I'm like, I have something at this time. Are we able to make this work? And they'll tell me yes or no with that.
Right.
Because there are definitely some weeks that are more scattered than others. But yeah, you're right. Yeah, that one Monday, pretty calm, all things considered.
Let's shift it then. What's I don't even know if you get days off, but what's a perfect day off to you?
Perfect day off for me, sleeping in. Oh goodness, yeah, sleeping in.
Sleeping in is great. I miss sleeping in. Yeah.
And there's a video game my fiance and I want to complete called Life is Strange Double Exposure. So having like a full day to actually like play a long full length video game. It's a good day.
Yeah. It's good to have
Yeah.
a game you can share with your beloved too. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
nice.
Reading something that doesn't have anything to do with work.
Right, reading something you want to, yeah.
Yeah, and granted, like the stuff I
Or
do
like no
read for
pressure
work,
you want to, I mean.
yeah, like
Yeah,
and
you want to
granted,
read this stuff for work.
absolutely, yeah, that's why I keep doing the work, right? And
Right.
and also it does feel good where it's like, ooh, this is nowhere on my calendar. I'm gonna read
Yes.
this. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good feeling. Sleeping in video games, reading.
calling
Anything
my
else?
nibblings.
Calling your nibblings? That's a good thing to do.
They're all of toddler age. I got a video message from my nephew this morning, and that made me happy.
Love it. Yeah. My 6-year-old loves to send my brother they send audio voice memos back and forth to each other, and it's very cute.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that is cute.
So yeah, are you on a day off? Are you going out? Or are you? I'm out during the week. On my day off, I want to stay home. You know, what's your vibe?
On my day off, do I like to go out?
Yeah. Are you going out? Like, are you going out to dinner? Are you going out to like a show or something? You
Oh
know,
yeah,
like do you?
going out to see a play or going out to see a movie. That's always
Okay.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Nice. That's a good day off. Sleeping in, reading, playing video games, calling your nibblings, seeing a movie, seeing a play. I like it.
Thanks.
Well, that's that brings us to the last question, which is, do you have any immediate goals or hopes?
Hmm.
I can imagine the poetry manuscript that keeps getting rejected factors into this question.
Right. Yeah. I want the poetry manuscript to get accepted. I want to finish my prose project and submit those for
Yeah.
queries.
Yes.
And that's probably going to take a couple more years to finish. And I want to become the statewide Maine Poet Laureate. Yes, I'm saying
Oh,
that
there you
out
go.
loud.
Yeah, manifest it. Go
Yes,
ahead. Go ahead.
I want that very much. Yeah, and continuing to build the community I have around me, continue making art and all that good stuff. Continue writing.
Those are great goals. Those are really great goals. Yeah. Well, Maya, thank you so much for joining us on the Lazy and Entitled podcast. This no doubt will not be your last appearance on this show.
I'd love to come back. Have me back anytime, please.
Yes. Oh, plugs. Where can people find you? Where can people buy your books?
Ooh, yes. People can find me at mdub16 EMMDUBB16 on Instagram, Blue Sky, and Twitter. Folks can buy my book Judas and Suicide from Game Over Books. You can buy Refuse a Second Date from Harbor Editions, which has been listed as a read for Black History Month by CLMP. Hey!
Yes, yes. And in this house, it is still Black History Month. We don't care what the president says. So read Maya's book this February. You got like 2 more weeks to read Maya's book.
Yeah. And What's So Wrong with the Pity Party Anyway, you can get from Garden Party Collective.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Maya.
Thank you.
Our worker of the week this week, sorry I don't have names, but it goes to the bartenders and barbacks at the Whistler. Maybe they were all bartenders. One of the guys seemed like a barback, though. The Whistler is a famous cocktail bar and venue in Chicago, and they mix a really great cocktail, even for us NA drinkers, while also being a great music space. I've been there for shows, but a couple of weeks ago, friend of the show and author of the forthcoming poetry collection Hair Shirt, Adrian Sobel, invited me to a reading. The dudes behind the bar were polished and perfect, quiet whenever someone was reading, quick and methodical to get drinks out between readers without freaking out, friendly, everything you want out of a bar staff during a poetry reading in pretty close quarters. I didn't get anyone's name because asking a bartender what their name is always makes me feel like either boomer dad or like grind set bro. But the dudes at the Whistler, shout out to you dudes, you're workers of the week. You know
Hell
those grind
yeah.
set bros, right?
Yeah, no, yeah, I definitely know what you mean. I don't ever want someone asking my name. I guess when older people do, I'm fine with it. But
Yeah, they gotta be pretty elderly though.
yeah, no,
But
they do have to be pretty old. Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
there's
they gotta be.
definitely yeah. There's gray-haired people who where you when they ask your name, you're like, dude, I don't want to talk about
No,
chemtrails or
yeah,
whatever. Like,
they definitely they have to be older than even our parents who are in their 60s. Well, that's it for this week. We'll be back with a regular episode soon.
that's right. Thank you for listening, and thanks for our guest.
Yes, shout out to Maya Williams, who again you can find on social medias at MDub16. That's EMDUBB16, and buy their books, which are listed in the show notes.